Islam has a proud tradition of tolerance. We see it in the history of Andalusia and Cordoba during the Inquisition. I saw it firsthand as a child in Indonesia, where devout Christians worshiped freely in an overwhelmingly Muslim country. That is the spirit we need today.
Ricardo Montalban would have been thrilled with the accent. The question is, what about the content? This is Wretched Radio. That, of course, was the President of the United States speaking in Cairo, delivering perhaps the speech that has earned him the big prize, the Nobel Peace Award. But is it true? Is there tolerance in Islam? How do we know? Well, we can go to history and we can go to their holy book, which is the Koran. This is Wretched Radio. Joining us is Robert Spencer. The Complete Infidel's Guide to the Koran is the name of his book. Going through it, surah by surah. What does it teach? Robert, thanks very much. I know you're sick today, so we appreciate you spending some time with us, sir.
Oh, I'm happy to be here. Thank you.
Death threats and all. All right, Robert, we just heard the president say that Islam has a proud history of tolerance. Does it?
No, it's a lot of hooey. It's something that is very well established, though, as a propaganda point within Islam. As a matter of fact, it is something that is very long established in Islam. I mean, in recent discussions of Islamic history, that the Spanish, in particular, the Spanish Al-Andalus that Obama mentioned, and I loved, as you noted, Ricardo Montalban and his Cordoba, because the city is Cordoba, the car is Cordoba, but Obama said the car was a great thing. In any case, the idea of a tolerant, pluralistic Muslim Spain is really a historical myth, very common one. But look, Muslim Spain was not tolerant and pluralistic. Muslim Spain was a terrible place to live if you were a Jew or a Christian. Muslim Spain was a place where the Jews and Christians had an institutionalized second-class status that was mandated by the Koran, because they were supposed to, in accordance with the Quran, feel themselves subdued under the rule of Islamic law, not to enjoy equality of rights with the Muslims, because in the Quranic view, Jews and Christians are renegades who have rejected the truth of Islam, and they have to be made to feel that renegade status. They have to be made to feel that disobedience in any way possible. And that means that they have to be reminded of it in this life as well as in the next, and are subjected in Islamic law to an institutionalized discrimination.
Dimitude, isn't it?
Yeah.
Isn't that what that falls underneath? The dimitude that, hey, we won't kill you, but you can't share your faith. You can't ring your bells too loud. You can't build a new building. You have to wear your robes a certain, or your hair a certain way so it doesn't look like us. There were all kinds of rules that went with it.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. And they were all made to enforce the idea, really, that the dhimmis are not equal to the Muslims, that they are not to be treated as equal human beings with equality of rights before the law. Quite the contrary. And so these laws were enforced in Spain, in Muslim Spain. As a matter of fact, all laws sometimes are broken or ignored. That's a universal in human history, no matter what the law. And the law, it's true, in Muslim Spain sometimes was set aside. And so one time, there was a Jew who in Granada was appointed to a high position of authority. And then the Muslims rioted. And the Muslims rioted because they believed that it was against God's law that a Jew should hold authority over Muslims, because he was supposed to have this degraded second-class status. And so that in itself belies Obama's vision of a tolerant, pluralistic Muslim luxury car.
Mm-hmm. Now, but it's you know why the Cordoba is biblical?
Why?
Because it has Corinthian leather. Thank you.
Yes, fine Corinthian leather.
On Friday and Saturday. Thanks for that. Okay, I know what Richard Dawkins says dim is. What's a dhimmi? It's dimitude is you get those rules put on you as a Christian, as an infidel. What does the term dhimmi mean?
A dhimmi is somebody who is a protected person. That's what the word means. Protected and guilty simultaneously, meaning both of those. And the idea is that the non-Muslim, particularly a Jew or a Christian, but not solely limited to them, they are not to enjoy the equality, as we've been discussing, with the Muslims.
Yeah.
And they are to be degraded and to be disgraced and to feel that degradation by various deprivations that they suffer in the society. And so, that being the case, a dhimmi is hardly something that Muslims should be proud of in Islamic history, the dhimmi status, that is, that they imposed upon non-Muslims. And Obama is just buying into contemporary Muslim propaganda points when he repeats these things in Cairo.
About religious tolerance and racial equality.
And throughout history, Islam has demonstrated through words and deeds the possibilities of religious tolerance and racial equality.
Details. Robert Spencer, author of The Complete Infidel's Guide to the Koran. Robert, let's get back specifically into the Koran. The Bible, loaded with miracles. The Koran?
Well, the Koran says that the miracle that it contains is the Koran itself. That the Quran itself is such an astounding piece of poetry that nobody could possibly have written it except God. And the Quran repeatedly challenges people to come up with a surah like it, that is, a chapter like the Quran. And, of course, that's a challenge that can never be met because it's sort of in the eye of the beholder as to whether what is produced is like it. But actually there are a lot of people who have taken up the challenge and written things in imitation Quranic Arabic. And that is something that, no Muslim will ever say, oh, well, I guess you created a surah like it, so this must not be from God. But nonetheless, it is being done.
What, raising people from the dead, Red Seas parting, anything like that?
Nope, not a bit. They're
Muhammad...
recounting sometimes of the biblical stories of the parting of the Red Sea is in there, for example, many times.
Muhammad walking on water, feeding thousands of people, nothing.
No, Muhammad did not do any miracles. According to the Quran itself, the Quran is his only miracle.
And why not? That's very powerful. Signs and wonders can really support the message of the messenger. Why didn't he?
Well, he would say it was not God's will that he did it. That's all.
Okay, so it just there was no reason for it. All right, with that in mind, Robert Spencer, do we see in the Quran anything else bleeding its way? We've heard Old Testament stories, certainly some New Testament concepts that have woven its way in to a degree. Anything else? Pagan religions, mysticism, anything else you see in the Quran?
Well, there's quite a bit in the Quran that is very strange. A lot of striking, odd stories. You talk about mysticism. The foundation of Sufism or Islamic mysticism is in the Quran in a very strange story of Moses, the biblical prophet, walking along with a strange unnamed figure who came to be known as Kidder in Islamic tradition, and he is kind of a kidder because he does these strange things, and Moses doesn't understand them, and he asks him about them, and finally he explains. He does things like, for example, there's a young man, and he's going along, and Kidder comes up and kills the guy, and Moses said, what did you kill this young man for? And finally later, when he explains, he says, well, I saw that he was going to grow up to be an unbeliever and grieve his parents, and they will have another child who will be more pious. And so that's the kind of thing that he does, and the oddness of the story has become the foundation for a kind of mysticism within Islam.
So we see other things that have woven its way into the Quran. So other influences, obviously.